What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and today we are having a look at Starbound, another early access game available through Steam, made by Chucklefish. Now I've had a little bit of a think about how best to describe this game in my intro, and I think what I've come up with is a procedurally generated, side-scrolling space exploration and survival game with crafting quests and full multiplayer. Now that's quite a mouthful, and to be honest, barely even touches on the various elements that this game goes into, drawing from a huge range of different influences and different sources for the style of game it is. Now before I go any further, I need to bring a little bit of a spoiler warning, because of the nature of the game, to give a proper true impression of what the game is like from my 10 hours or so of playing. You will see bits and bobs from the crafting system as an example that are not available at the beginning. However, I promise that I will avoid anything storyline related, and I do not go too far into the game to leave some of that up to you guys to explore. First thing you're going to be greeted with when you launch the game and click start, be it single player or multiplayer, is a character creation screen. You get a few character slots, and then you get the option to pick from one of 6 races, and then there's quite an amusingly large amount of character customization options that means that you can kind of make your little pixel dude look pretty cool, to be honest. Character customization done, you then hit OK and you are straight in. The story as it stands at the moment is that you have fled your home planet for reasons unknown, and you have managed to now crash into this planet, the planet you start on, and are out of fuel. The game then presents you with a few starting quests that will introduce you to the basic mechanics of the game, how to use the various weapon slots, how to use the crafting system, and how to get food. Now at this point I feel it's a good idea to talk a little bit about the UI itself, which to begin with is not intuitive. And this might be a little bit unfair because I am colourblind, so I have a little bit of difficulty looking at things like this and differentiating. But I do feel that I spend too long squinting in my bags trying to find what I'm looking for, and the slots at the top of the screen, which are your quick action slots, exist in a different realm to your backpack somehow, so items will go up there automatically and then not be visible in your bags. And this can be a little bit confusing when you're first starting off and you're trying to work out what's going on, because you'll pick stuff up and you'll just have no idea where it's gone. Add to this the fact that you've got 2 different bags, one that tends to contain raw resources, but not always, and then another one that contains the more interesting items, in theory, that you pick up, and the inventory system is a little difficult to deal with. However, the rest of the UI and the rest of the system is quite friendly. There's a nice search system on the crafting so that you can just type in what you're looking for and it'll come up, and there is also, the action bars, the left click, the right click, and how you assign all that works very straightforward. Just to talk a little bit about those mouse buttons and the left click and the right click. At the top of the screen, in the middle, you'll see that there is an L and an R, and by pressing I you can drag items into those slots. And what those slots are your left and right hand when you're not equipping anything else. And by putting a one-handed weapon in the left slot, say, you can then put a torch in the right slot and wield both together, and trust me, this will become valuable as things start getting a little bit dark. The game features a full day-night cycle, so like Minecraft for example, you will need to light your way at night using torches and slowly other devices as well. In particular, the flashlight you're given when you first start the game looks really cool at night, although is quite useless at finding your way around. There is also a temperature mechanic in the game, which means that in certain environments you will need to be watching your temperature on top of your hunger and your health. And all 3 of these currently seem like very finite resources, and early in the game you'll have to be watching them quite closely to not get caught out. So moving on to the core of the game, and the thing I think makes it the most unique and the thing that will drive its longevity, is the fact that almost everything in Starbound is procedurally generated. From the planets that you initially start on, the monsters that are on them, to some extent the loot that you're receiving, the quests that you will get while you're out and about, and the entire start map. I mean, everything in this game is procedurally generated, which means that there is an infinite number of possibilities as to what you can do and how far you can go. Now obviously this has limits, as always they do when people start swinging about with the procedurally generated stick. But in this case, it feels really fresh, and it means that the idea of exploration carries through the game as far as I can see. And even later on, you're going to be focusing on trying to explore and trying to consistently find more interesting and different planets and biomes. Just to explain the biome concept for anybody who isn't familiar with it from other games like Minecraft and Terraria, basically it's an easy way of saying an environment, certain areas of the map that will be, say, an ice area or a forest area or a desert area, or in the case of Starbound, a goo area or a bones area or a nether rock area. The game has a huge range of different biomes and environments for you to explore, both on the initial planet you start on, but also once you start to fuel up the ship and move on from where you begin, you will start to explore the enormous star map that's contained within Starbound, and move on to other planets which themselves have a type. And then on those planets you'll have biomes and dungeons which have been done very, very well. Procedurally generated dungeons with different mobs, potentially quests, certain loot types, decorative items, all sorts of different features that you can encounter just by exploring various worlds. Moving on from this, and this is sort of more of a spoiler than some of the stuff I've said previously, you can also then upgrade the ship you begin with and move on to another sector, a further difficulty which is similar to the first one, except you will encounter more interesting environments, you will encounter more interesting materials, more interesting patterns, more interesting things to craft. And I've just about scratched the surface of number 2 of 10. So the volume of content in this game is huge, and this is in a position where it's an early access game, it's a beta. So the fact that they're this far down development and yet have a huge amount still planned is amazing from my point of view. I've spent a lot of time on this game, and I'm going to spend a lot further time on this game getting more into it, because so far Starbound has been great fun. The crafting system in the game also follows this same sort of progression, although it seems to be a quite strict progression, so often you'll find yourself requiring the previous item to craft the next one down the line, rather than in some other games it's just material based, which has an effect on how the game plays. It encourages you that it has to be a progression. You can't jump large distances ahead and then skip out elements. But at the same time, the crafting system is very well done. Again, I've barely scratched the surface of what's available in this as well, but if you search around you can see hints towards potentially vehicles. The UI contains slots for tech, it contains slots for pets, so potential there as well for some very, very cool stuff. And I know it's implemented in the game, I just haven't seen it yet. So what's an option as far as the crafting system is concerned is also enormous, and seems to be expanding every time they release a patch for it as well. The only bit I haven't really touched on so far is multiplayer, and multiplayer has been good fun for us. We actually started the game in multiplayer and tried to launch off straight off the bat fresh in the multiplayer mode, and the only thing I would say is don't do that. You start off with a bunch of quests that are introing you to the game, as I've already mentioned, and those quests are really not that much fun as a multiplayer group. Get those few ones out of the way, join up after quest 4 is my suggestion. From that point on, multiplayer is great. You can jump to each other's ships, each other's planets, see what each other has been up to, or you can all get together, go hunting, go try and find a dungeon, go digging. There is also a pretty decent potential for trolling. You can destroy each other's items, even on their ships, so just keep a close watch on anything you consider valuable, because trust me, finding someone who's decided they're going to run off on one of 4 different planets and 4 different ships and teleport about the place is a little tricky. Whatever you want to do, it has that feel of Minecraft about it, except without quite so much on the creative element. Of course, to be fair, I do have to say it is a beta, and they could go further with the creative elements in the game. I just feel that, as far as Minecraft is concerned, the 3-dimensional nature of it means that it's more of a creative vibe versus a 2-dimensional game. People will inevitably be drawing comparisons between this and, well, Terraria in particular, but also Minecraft. I've done it myself in this video, and unfortunately those are the games you have to compare it to. However, it's important to say, it will hold up and stand out in its own right. It's got a different flavour to both of them, and it's implemented some of the features of both of them in a way that neither of them did anything like as well. So I really would, as my closing note, recommend you go out, have a look at this game, maybe check out some other videos if you're unsure. But overall, this has a lot of potential, both now and in the future. And my 10 hours have not given me nearly close to a whole experience of what's actually available in the game, and that should in itself say something. It's £11.99 at the moment, pounds, on Steam, which means it's going to be somewhere in the region of 14-15 euros. And for that price, the volume of content is huge, and the game needs support. So far it's been brilliant, I've loved playing it, and I really do recommend this one. Some of the previous videos, there's been a lot of work to come. Some of the previous early accesses I've covered, there's been a lot of work to come. And I think with Starbound, they've hit off on such a strong note, you can't help but try and support it. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. This has been Starbound. I would recommend you check it out. I'm sorry it's been a bit of a short one, from my standards at least, but I felt it was better to give you a quick overview, show you the basics of the game, than it was to dive too far in and then spoil some of the story elements and some of the progression elements. So please consider hitting that like and subscribe button if you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next time.